Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our newest edition of our BDPA Tech and Career Talks. I am Devin Jenkins, your National BDPA Tech and Career Talk leader, based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I'm a staff technical product manager at GE Healthcare, working in our supply chain analytics space. So excited to have you all here today. I'll do a brief overview of BDPA and our Tech and Career Talks in case we have any first-time listeners today. But BDPA stands for Black Data Processing Associates. The organization has been around since 1975 with a focus on developing the talent pipeline for the technology field. So we serve as a vehicle for professionals in the IT industry to continue to develop their skills and networks, as well as we have a focus on middle and high school students, teaching them computer skills and programming skills to develop our future talent pipeline. And our mantra is always advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have Miss Anissa Lumpkin with us again from the Air Force, talking about their HBCU outreach initiative. So I'll let her tell us more about that. But thank you for joining us today, Anissa. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Devin. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Happy to be back with the BDPA program, and looking forward to our discussion today.
Thank you. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So we'll go through a conversation here. If you have questions or thoughts throughout the talk, definitely drop them in the chat. And we will open up some time towards the end for open Q&A so everyone can ask your questions. So, but definitely drop your questions or thoughts in the chat so you don't lose them. So just to kick things off, so Anissa, just a fun fact, at least since I've been running the Tech Talks, which has been about 3 years now, I think you are our most common guest on the talks. I think you've made 3 appearances. So outside of probably our past president, Mr. Terry Morris, I think you're our most frequent guest. So you're no stranger to the platform. So just tell us what's been going on with you since we talked a year ago.
Well, that's surprising information. Thanks for continuing to invite me back. It always feels like home being with the BDPA folks, and just happy to be here. So, but yeah, thanks, Devin. Since last time we spoke, and I think it's been about a year ago. So, personally for myself, I transitioned in 3 great years working in our Air Force Research Laboratory small business office, and transitioned over to the AFRL Plans and Programs Directorate and took a promotion over there. And so now I manage the S&T engagement portfolio for working with an awesome team in our 711th Human Performance Wing, aeromedical material area lead, Dr. Darren Ott and his team, looking to increase partnerships and opportunities in the aeromedical capabilities area with our government, academia, and industry. So it's been great working with that portfolio and team and continuing strengthening that education technology. So definitely happy to be here and to share, the insights and things that we're doing, across the Air Force.
Well, congrats on your promotion. So I didn't even realize that happened. So congrats to you. I guess it has been 3 years since we've been doing this, so it makes sense. I'm sure you're far more than deserving. So congrats to you on the new role. And we're going to come back to that, the Air Force piece and some of the things you mentioned there. But first and foremost, I had to wear my HBCU shirt today, represent Miles College, HBCU family. But walk us through your journey. You became a military leader, you're a technology leader. So walk us through the journey of becoming a leader in both of these spaces, and what role did your HBCU experience play in all of that?
So that's a great question, Devin, because I've really reflected on that. Just last week, I attended the National Military Ops Research Symposium, which consists at the Marine Corps University. I've never actually been on a Marine Corps installation, so it was really exciting to see all of these ops analysts, data scientists, mathematicians from across the Department of Defense, and it really allowed me to reflect on, how I got here in my journey. And especially being in that national conference and not seeing a lot of people that look like me, women, there were, very few of us. And so just reflecting back on how I got there, So for me, my journey started at Tennessee State University. I actually grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I always said, well, I really want to go to historically Black college and university. And Tennessee State, when I hit that campus, that was just like the right fit for me. And so, and there I majored in aeronautical and industrial engineering technology. So I'm a proud technologist and trained with the Air Force as a operations research analyst and acquisition program manager. At Tennessee State, TSU loud and proud. I'm so glad I went to TSU. I see one of my fellow TSU alum there, Terrence Gaines, in the chat, shouting out TSU. But Tennessee State has a robust Air Force ROTC program there. And I participated in that program and became a commissioned officer in the United States Air Force. And that really kicked off my career in the air and space defense course. Have someone who has came from a background and family who didn't know anything about the Air Force. I think I actually got tricked into taking the class. My dad was like, "Hey, you need to take a leadership class," and it turned out he signed me up for Air Force ROTC. And I'm like, "Dad, you know this is the Air Force?" He's like, "It'll be good for you," and it actually was. You know, sometimes your parents do know the best for you. And so there at Tennessee State, I learned a lot about aerospace and defense. I was able to do partnerships with Vanderbilt University. I did my a co-thesis over there with some of the Vanderbilt faculty and shared laboratory space with them and our laboratory space at Tennessee State University. And so it's just been a great transition from there, working with the Air Force as an officer, a reservist. I've worked with in industry and small business, and then coming back to the Air Force and working as a civilian and as a civil servant. So just been a great journey. It's great to see how far I have come, and just the experiences that I've been able to have.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny the way you do things in your education, high school, the collegiate level, that just translates directly into what you end up doing after the fact. I guess it's how it's supposed to work. But no, I even think about, you know, when I was at Miles, I participated in the Intelligence Community Center of Academic Excellence program, which was sponsored through the ODNI, the Office of the Defense National Intelligence. That gave me a chance to see some different countries and, you know, just get exposed to things that just weren't on my radar before going to HBCU. And it just kind of changes your perspective, you know, on what's available to you in the world. So I'm glad you got that experience. And it kind of takes me to my next point. Our last few conversations, you know, we've made it a point to talk about kind of the effects of COVID on what's going on in your world and with the program and everything. And that's still a very real thing in our world today, even you know, 2 years later. And we talked about social justice issues, but now we even have a global conflict going on in Russia, you know, between Russia and the Ukraine. So with that conflict, that situation going on right now, how has that impacted your role with the Air Force? And a second part to this question, what does that mean about the importance of partnerships between our military and programs like BDPA, fostering those connections?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, working in the Air Force Research Laboratory, we are very research focused, in bringing in universities, academia, industry into our research portfolio. We can learn. We're learning a lot from the Ukraine and Russian conflict, and all world conflicts, because we take those areas that we see specific needs, or we can learn a lot from, you know, I touch on the air medical piece. So we can learn a lot from the capability development that's going on across those world conflicts, and apply them to whether it be future research that we're looking to get into, or taking the capabilities of the areas that we're needing to stay focused on, and apply those to the technology roadmaps that we already are developing. And so when it comes to the COVID pandemic, Ukraine, we are always continuing to adapt to our portfolio and where we're going. You know, one of the things at the Air Force level, we're looking to, increase weapon systems. One of the things that have come out recently that you can find in the news is that the Air Force is going to increase some of our weapon systems support to the Ukraine forces as we learn strategically how to manage this particular world conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So it's always strategic development that takes place. And then for continued onset of the situation, we look at how those strategic changes to our mission take place. We look at technology development, we look at research partners, and those partnerships with academia and industry are key components of that. Whether it's something that's commercially already built off the shelf that we can take and apply to areas that we have. But what's most important for us in our Air Force mission is what do we need to make sure our allies have the best capabilities and our warfighters for our Air Force have the best capabilities. And that at the end of the day, Air Force is all about our national security and ensuring we have the best Air Force in the world. So when we're looking for, hey, what can BDPA do or what can industry do to help us in the Air Force, it's, hey, show us your best capabilities, show us the best that you have to offer. And we actually have opened up what's called Air Force Tech Connect, which is a front door to science and technology for air and space technology needs. And so with that, it opens up the door for you to come in and tell us, hey, this is the technology that I have. These are some of the best and brightest ideas that we have. And we try to find matches to those. If it's something, hey, that's something that, yes, we need, we want, then we can have that discussion. So it's kind of the first time we're really opening up in history to have that front door piece.
So that's a great tie-in to kind of why we're really here today, which is talking about the HBCU Outreach Initiative. So just quite plainly tell us, what is the Air Force HBCU Outreach Initiative? What's this all about?
Yeah, so let me just back up real quick when it comes to how the Air Force HBCU Outreach Initiative first got started. So I have worked as the AFRL program manager for the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Program. And that program is a program that's research-based that allows small businesses and universities to look at different technology needs that the Air Force has. And we put out a list of topics every year. It's a $400 million plus program that we fund contracts to small businesses and small businesses that partner with universities to do research for the Air Force in the areas that we have the biggest needs. And so as a program manager in that program, we saw a lot of successes. We saw a lot of great research and capabilities. But one thing that I didn't see were a lot of participation from our historically Black colleges and universities and our minority serving institutions, and just fundamentally minority business owners that look like me. And so one of the things that I sought out to do was to increase the number of HBCUs, MSIs, and small business minority business partners to receive some of those grant contracts and opportunities. As someone who graduated from an HBCU, I have a passion there, but it's also about taking the passion that I have and being in the role that I had and using that influence and intention to see, hey, what are those barriers? So I reached out to, a lot of our Office of Sponsored Research programs. I reached out to at TSU, Mr. John Barfield, who's at our Office of Sponsored Research program at TSU, North Carolina A&T, several universities, FAMU, Morgan State. And I said, hey, what are some of those barriers to entry? Why are we not receiving proposals from small businesses partnering with HBCUs. And so that is what really kicked off the outreach initiative. And going through that and applying resources to help do that with proposal writing, with identifying other resources, it really spun off a whole initiative for not only starting at the research and faculty area, but even starting back to the students that are working in those areas, our engineering students. And so one of the things at the Air Force, we say, we want to make sure we're bringing everybody to the table because we need the best ideas. And the best ideas are not just at some of these big schools, the MITs, the Harvards. They are everywhere across the board. And as an HBCU grad, I know that there are some of the best technology areas, and what are those niches that we need to make sure we have. And so that the program spun off to not only just supporting our small business technology transfer programs, but supporting across the board from students to other universities. And so one of the things we kicked off were our Ask Me Anything events every month. We have a newsletter. We have workshops that are specifically targeted to different areas that you need. And we're going to do even more next year. So one of the things I say is, yes, we got it started. We're really into like year 2 of the program, and we don't have all of the answers. So we're always looking for additional ideas and support and how to get it started. Called on a lot of friends that I have that have been working in this area for a long time. Mr. Ed Lee, who is our Air Force Office of Scientific Research, HBCU MI coordinator. Every year he puts out topics and proposals and grants opportunities for HBCUs. So called on him to help assist, and also Miss Ashley Blackford, who is our Material Leaders Research Collaboration Program Manager. And she focuses on the students and faculty coming in and working in our laboratories in the summertime. And so it's all of these powerhouse players coming together to ensure we have a full roadmap and gamut for how to make sure those research dollars are equitably being applied across the board to various universities.
And I think that's a big part of the mission of BDPA and other orgs like us, National Society of Black Engineers, National Black MBA. I think we're all here to try to level that playing field and make sure there is a certain level of equity when it comes down to people having opportunities to get these contracts and push their businesses forward, be a part of the solutions for some of these big problems that we face as a nation and world. So I think it's phenomenal that the Air Force is continuing to place an emphasis on programs like this and making sure that becomes more of a reality. So let's tie this into BDPA specifically. So we think about BDPA, this will be the 3rd year that the Air Force is hosting the HBCU Collider event. And I think it'd be good for you to tell us a little bit about those previous Collider experiences, how those have gone, what's been some of those success stories, and tell us a little bit about what we can look forward to this year.
Great. So one of I'm really excited about the upcoming 3rd annual Air Force HBCU MSI outreach initiative. And you can find out information about the program. You could just Google 3rd annual Air Force HBCU outreach initiative, and I'll put it in the chat as well. So one of the great things about coming up this year is when the Air Force launched our outreach initiative to HBCUs, one of the things that we also found was that other Department of Defense industries, as well as the Small Business Administration, also had other SBIR and SITR programs. We formed a HBCU steering committee within the Small Business Administration, called on all of the program managers in that area and said, hey, what are some and sharing ideas and what they're doing. We have Miss Janelle Steele from NASA. She's doing awesome work with her program and ensuring there's more out there for HBCUs and MSIs. We called in our National Science Foundation. So this year you'll see not just Air Force, but across the board, our National Oceanic Administration will be a part, the CDC, Small Business Administration, NSF, and NASA. And so you'll see a broad spectrum of support and resources and information sharing for the community out there. So it's not just HBCUs and MSIs, but it's industry. There's small businesses that are interested in partnering with HBCUs. And so we want to make sure we have those research dollars are out there. And so there's an initiative to ensure that you understand how to compete for those dollars and make sure that you're equipped equipped with that information and understand what the mission base is, so that you can have very successful and competitive proposals that you're submitting.
So if I look across just kind of the landscape of corporate America and businesses, the economy, there's been a lot of budget cuts and resource challenges over these last few years, especially as we look at COVID pandemic, some of the social justice challenges we're facing. You have the conflict with Russia and Ukraine right now. Gas prices are crazy. So something must be working for this to still be a priority 3 years later. So what's the success story? What's making what's kept this as a priority, for the Air Force for 3 years, and specifically with BDPA, doing this event. And are there any specific examples of participants from the past that have shown just how successful this initiative is? It looks like Anissa may have frozen up on us. Or did I freeze up? Let's see here. Are you all able to hear me still? Okay. I think Anissa may have had a connection issue there. But while we wait for her to come back in, if you have any questions or thoughts, you want to make sure we don't forget them, please make sure you drop those in the chat. I also shared a clickable link for the airforcetechconnect.org that Anissa shared earlier, so you can explore that. This will be also a good time for me to encourage you, if you haven't already, please make sure you register and plan to attend our National BDPA conference this year. We will be back in person for the first time in 2 years, so we're excited about that. This will be the first time since 2019, actually. So I just dropped the link in the chat for you to go check out the information around our BDPA conference, which will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, August 18th through the 20th. We're excited to be back with everyone this year, and I hope you all can join us as well. So click that link, it's in the chat, register, check it out, become a member if you're not a member, and get ready to experience this great conference with us coming up. Let me share one other thing while we're here. Also, I want to encourage you to go out to our Taking Career Talk site, where you can see all of our previous Taking Career Talks that we've had throughout this year. So tune in there. The recording for this one will be uploaded there as well. So you can see this talk if you want to run it back, or you can check out our previous talks and upcoming talks as well. So be sure to check out our Taking Career Talks page. Is everyone finding the talk to be insightful so far this morning? Absolutely. Good, good, good. Getting some good responses in the chat. Looks like Anissa is rejoining us. Any HBCU alum in the call today? Any fellow HBCU alum in the call by chance? We have any representing the chat for me if you're an HBCU alum. Hey, Wilberforce, another TSU alum in the house. I mentioned earlier, in case you weren't here, I did go to Miles College, so HBCU alum as well. Okay. Anissa, are you back with us? If you're saying anything, you're on mute. Okay, Robin went to Tennessee State for 2 years.
Okay, Devin, sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm not sure what happened.
No worries.
To jump on a different device here, so you may not be able to see me.
Okay, no worries. We'll move forward anyhow.
Hello.
Let me copy this link back in here for Sam. There you go, Sam. I just reposted that conference link in the chat as well. Okay, Anissa, but basically what I was just asking before you cut out, something has made this program remain a priority for the Air Force over the last 3 years, and in the midst of everything that's been cut and scratched across the board over the course of the pandemic and everything else going on in the world. So I just wanted to ask, what's kept this as a priority, and are there any specific examples from the last 3 Collider events that have been held with BDPA or elsewhere that you could share some success stories from the program?
Absolutely. So just yesterday we finished up two days at our host site, Central State University, which is an HBCU here in Ohio, Southern Ohio, in Wilberforce, Ohio. It was a vision spawned on by Dr. Reginald Turner, who is the Associate Dean at the Air Force Institute of Technology. And it was the HBCU Digital Literacy Summit. Brought in digital transformation ideas, digital literacy across our HBCUs and MSIs and the Department of Defense and the Air Force coming together to really form a task force on how to strengthen our digital transformation, digital literacy, and research efforts at HBCUs and MSIs. So that's a great initiative that took place. I'm really excited and looking forward to what comes out of that. The Air Force HBC Outreach Initiative, I just want to really hone in and hit home on how those focus efforts really turn the corner for the Air Force and working with HBCUs in small business areas. So when we first launched the program for Air Force, Small Business Technology Transfer Program, we didn't have any small businesses that had partnered with HBCU, zero, that had submitted proposals for a small business technology transfer program. We call it STTR for short, for SITR. And since the program launched, we have awarded to over 5 small businesses that have partnered with HBCUs, including Tennessee State, FAMU, North Carolina A&T, Morgan State, Howard University, have all been able to receive those awards. And one of the great things about these contract awards is that it shows that they were competitive across the board, right? Across any other program or small business or university that competed. And so with that comes they're protected with their data rights for 20 years in whatever area that they do research for the Air Force. And they also, if there's a government entity that's interested in the technology research area that they're doing, they can go via far direct contract to that university as long as the area is spun off of that SIBR or sitter that they receive that award towards. So it's almost like a blank check that they can go and take, and it's like, hey, we're doing research in that area. Is that something that you need? Yes, we find a match partnership. You can take it from there. So $3 to $4 million worth of efforts in that area contracted to small business, that I say that's a success. One of the things that we found in finding those success areas and those niches were there's a small business, Spectrum Energies, and so the CEO that founded that business actually attended North Carolina A&T, attended an HBCU, and so he reached back to some of his longtime partners in those areas and schools and other schools and found, hey, we have a lot of similarities, and there's some strengths that you have, and there's some strengths that I have. Let's come together and submit a proposal. And that's where we found success in those areas. And so those are one of the things where we're like, hey, small businesses that are out there working in specific areas, reach back to your universities and find those similarities, or other universities that have those similarities. And so that's where we found the most success. Another thing that I was really excited about, so earlier I mentioned how we have Ask Me Anything events in different areas and resources across the board. One of our guests that we had last year was Miss Ellen Robinson, and she came on and she's like, hey, I have this program. We have research dollars for graduate students and faculty. And so whatever area that you're doing your graduate research in, we have programs in place to assist with that. And she mentioned, she's like, I've never had in as long as I've been a program manager for this program. So we have graduate fellow research program. There's the young investigators research program. And so she found that there weren't any HBCUs that they had awarded to. There were several students that were on the line and faculty, and she actually had her first HBCU awardee receive a research and grant scholarship. And I mean, that covers your full tuition, that covers your research. That is a win-win for everyone. That person is coming and working in our research laboratories, and they can take that back to their university. So a lot of success. I'm really excited on what we've been able to accomplish in the last couple of years. Not saying that, but I did want to make sure I hit home that just because we've had our successes, we still have a long way to go. We still have to ensure there is equity in the research dollars that we're applying to universities and some of the smaller universities and big universities. We would love, as the Air Force, to help ensure HBCUs, especially the ones at the research level 2 area, get to that research level 1 classification level. And so ones that are not quite there at the R2, how can we help get them to that research level 2 area, research level 1? Um, and so it's not that the Air Force, it's not that you need that HBCUs need the Air Force, or the Air Force needs HBCUs. We all need to work together as a partnership to strengthen uh, that relationship, to help you understand what are our mission areas, what are our mission needs. And so it's a very targeted effort that is taking place, an initiative that's taking place to ensure that we're there. And if you're interested in, definitely, if someone's here and they're interested in the efforts that we're doing, or you have more to share, please reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn under Anissa Lumpkin. You can reach out to me there. I will also put our email in the chat, afrl.hbcu.msi@us.af.mil. And that email address there, you can reach out to us. But I'm always open to your feedback. I'm always open to listening to straight from the source. What are the barriers that you see, and what can we do to help strengthen that area? And one of the things with the Collider is it's a virtual collider, and we'll be there at BDPA to have one-on-one conversations with you as well. But we want to make sure that we have an open door to hear your ideas and feedback.
Okay, so thanks for sharing your email. The last thing I'll do just to close out my questioning portion, and then we'll move into the open Q&A. I do see we have one question in the chat. So I saw you dropped an Eventbrite link in the chat earlier. So you just shared your email, but just to make sure everyone is clear, how can everyone participate in the Collider event, but also support the HBCU outreach initiative overall?
Yeah, thanks, Devin. So again, come to our Collider events, our Ask Me Anything events and workshops. Let me know. Send me an email if it's an area that you are interested in learning more about, whether it's proposals for submitting to our Air Force Silver Sitter program, or if there's an area that we haven't exposed you to that you're interested in. All of our events are recorded so that you can come back and rewatch them later and get all of those resources and nuggets, because we know that your time is of the essence, and so we want to make sure that there's no information that's hidden. Everything is open. Communication is open. Reach out to us for information, send emails, get those resources that are available and free to you. We partner with other industry partners that have expertise in those areas. We have partnership intermediary agreements. We have some with Apex, Wright Brothers Institute, and so Doolittle Institute. And so they're located across the nation, and we utilize them to help you. So Air Force pays the bill, and so they can provide free resources to universities, academia, faculty, students, small businesses, to help get you to where you need to be, and really identify, hey, where no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out or you are an advanced, even a larger business, and you have some areas that you want to focus on. Some of those, if you're a major contractor or major federal government contractor, we're looking for your support as well. So we have also the Air Force has K through 12 STEM programs that we can get you connected and in touch with if that's something that you're definitely interested in BDPA. And I know you have a strong component of pitch days and competitions with your students and things like that. So definitely would love to connect you with those folks that do that as well.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. Thanks for everything you shared, Anissa. And we're going to open the floor for open Q&A and discussion right now. So, Luanza, I see you have a question in the chat. You want to come off mute and ask your question yourself?
Yeah. How are you doing, Anissa? Pleasure to see you again.
Hello, nice to see you.
Okay, real good. Reason why I hope you had a chance to look at my my question in the chat, and it just recently came to my understanding about the role of venture capitalists with innovators of technology over at Northwestern, where I'm pursuing a master's PhD in computer science. I happened to take in a venture capitalist class with their engineering management department, and it really opened my eyes into the role of venture capitalist companies working in tandem with researchers of new technologies. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I want to know what is your familiarity with the role venture capitalist firms that service the private sector in their relationship with innovators of these technologies that participate in this program, as well as those HBCUs? And as you well know, it's one thing to do research. I used to work as a chemist in a laboratory for a number of years, and we know that it takes some 7 to 10 years before a lot of research and development actually comes to fruition out in the market and it becomes profitable. We don't just want to do research. We want to take that a bit further and be able to make a profit and effectively try to corner the market in an industry. That's the
Mhm.
question I want to ask you.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question and definitely hits home. One of the things that our Air Force Silver Sitter program, we tout ourselves as kind of like the VC of the Air Force, and where we're investing research dollars into small businesses and university in our economy, and with non-attribution, right? So we don't take any data rights. You're able to protect that. Some of our on an industry side with VCs, you kind of give up some of your particulars in terms of data rights and that. Our one of our newest programs that has been stood up in the Air Force is AFworks. And AFworks actually, the Air Force Cyber and Sitter program is stood up under AFworks. And so they have an entire engagements team that works with some of the venture capitalist firms. They work with our major contractors and prime to ensure that we have the partnerships that are needed to move our defense capital forward for our Air Force Research Laboratory. And I'm actually really excited because we will have some of the engagement program manager actually come and speak to at the Collider event in August. And so then they can really expound on your question there in terms of how are we getting those investors and innovators and new technologies in those particular areas. So those are some of the things that we're looking for. One of the things with the CIBR and CITR program, after you get through the second phase, or phase one is a small investment that the Air Force makes, about 50K. Phase two, you're moving into more 750K to $1 million contract awards. And then phase three is that non-CIBR and CITR funding that comes from, whether it be from industry, so that could be a venture capitalist, or it could come from another government entity that actually continues to invest in the technology capabilities that you're doing after you've demonstrated some areas that, hey, we really do need that technology in a specific area. The CIBR and CITR portfolio allows VC programs or VC companies to also invest in those CIBR and CITR programs in those particular areas. So those are ways that you can participate in the Air Force CIBR CITR program, and also some of the venture capitalist programs that are out there.
Well, thank you very much. I see you have all your bases covered. I happened to run across that site that I posted in the chat for everyone to look at, and you certainly have given us a very thorough overview and insight to the role of venture capitalists plays with innovators that participate in their program. Yeah, thank you for responding to my question. And I will, following today's show, follow up and try to talk with you more further about how to participate and work as a researcher in your programs. Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much for the question. And I'm also going to put in the chat the website for AFworks, afworks.com. And so you can go there, and there's specific areas there for small businesses, that, and you can kind of see where the Air Force is investing in those particular programs that you're talking about.
Already.
Also there, something that's also great, and that you may be interested in on the site, they have focus areas. And so if you're wondering, hey, where is the Air Force, where's the mission focus for the Air Force, what do we see, what are some of those game changing technology areas that the Air Force is interested in seeing? And so there's focus areas that are put there, as well as when there's 3 solicitations a year for our Cyber and Sitter program, plus more that are added on. And so you can go there and see when is the solicitation open, and you can see those topic areas that are coming up for that particular solicitation.
Anissa, now that you raise that subject about topic areas, what is the Air Force's role and responsibility in the areas of quantum computing? That's supposed to be the new frontier in digital computing, to replace the Van Neumann computer that everybody uses today.
Yes, so the Air Force Material Command just established a new office to manage those digital transformation activities across the Air and Space Force enterprise. And so the Air Force Material Command, from their perspective, the entire department of the Air Force, the acquisition community, encompasses activities from research and development to fielding, sustainment, and beyond. And so that entire portfolio will be enveloped under this new digital transformation and lifecycle management. And it's a new office that has been stood up. And so there's a lot more to come. But I'll put in the chat, there's a full strategy for that digital transformation office, but I'll put in the chat the public facing area that you can look at to see what are some of those plans for digital transformation for the Air Force.
Yeah, that's real
And
good
so you can kind of
because
take a look at the strategy there for the Air Force's
yes,
focus in that area.
because we need to be more aware that quantum computing will, and maybe within the next 50 years, replace the conventional computers of our time. Um, it was the military and NASA that actually gave us the internet. I used to use it back in the 80s. Quantum
Yeah.
computing is going to supplement that technology, and I would assume that the government and its Air Force and military will, be in the forefront of that digital transformation um, movement and development effort as well that you just mentioned. Okay.
Yeah, that really hits home. Major General Heather Pringle, who's our Air Force Research Laboratory commander, or 2 days ago spoke at the HBCU Digital Literacy Summit that was presented by the Air Force Institute of Technology and the Air Force. And she talked about that first internet node. I think it was called A- NAFNet. I can't think of the name of it at the time, but she kind of showed how it first started out. The internet first started out in within the Air Force, and it was basically different computers that were stationed across the lab that they linked up, in various digital sites, and that kind of spun off. The internet spun off from there. So yeah, there's a deep-seated root effort, deep-seated root historical with the Air Force's uh, influence on the internet today. So
Yes,
it's
those
awesome
were
that you were able
VAX
to have a chance to
systems.
experience that.
Yeah, those were VAX systems in tandem with Stanford University research. I used to work as engineering technician in the chemistry and chemical engineering department at IIT, as in a research institute here in Chicago. And in some of the work that I did, we were sending messages back and forth to other institutions using that network. we're familiar with, I think, internet, World Wide Web, was it 3 or 2? The original infrastructure still exists today. They call it the Black Web. That's the one that you're referring to.
That's great. That's great. That's awesome that you had that experience, and thanks for sharing that.
Sure. I will again follow up and hopefully continue the conversation further. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the call? Last call for questions. Okay, well, thank you again, Anissa, for sharing with us today. I know the Collider event at the conference will be another success, and we'll keep this going for years to come. So thank you all again for joining. Again, as a reminder, please make sure you register and plan to attend our national conference, which will be in Atlanta, August 18th through the 20th. So go, I just put the link for the conference registration and all the details there in the chat. Then also remember to check out our website for our Tech and Career Talks. Just put that link in the chat as well if you want to see past recordings, as well as find this recording once it is uploaded. And the last link I'll share is the airforcetechconnect.org that Anissa shared earlier, with some additional information that may be helpful for you as it pertains to today's topics. So Anissa, any last comments before we close?
Thank you again, Devin, for having me here today. And again, no matter where you are, or if you have students, whether they're middle school students, high school students, up through, and you have a business that you have, or you're a current college student or faculty member, the Air Force has programs and resources available to you to ensure that we have the strengthened partnerships across the board, and we're always interested in working with those programs. So please reach out to me. I will be at the BDPA conference in August. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. And so if you see me, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Would love to talk and or set up some sidebar meetings and things like that. So looking forward to BDPA National Conference.
All right. Thank you again, Anissa. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the July 4th holiday and that weekend. Stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.